Hi there, my name is Grace and I am the outreach lead for the Metropolitan Police covering West Area, which is Ealing, Hillingdon and Hounslow. I'm here today with my colleague Detective Sergeant Iqbal Mia, who will talk about his journey and also give you an insight into what careers we have available within the net. So our job as the outreach team is basically to go into the communities and recruit from underrepresented communities, whilst also trying to recruit more females within the organisation as well. So I'm now going to hand you over to my colleague Iggy. Over to you, Iggy. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. My name is Iqbal Mia, or as my friends and colleagues call me, Iggy. I'm currently a detective sergeant covering West London. As Grace was saying, that's Ealing Borough, Hillingdon, and Hounslow Borough. So, quite a diverse area of London. So, just a little bit about me. So, I came to the UK in 1989, so I wasn't born here. I'm one of four siblings. And during kind of my early years, I think it's fair to say, kind of just reflecting on my adolescence and teenage years, I did struggle at school. I wasn't particularly academic, and it's partly due to coming to a new country, learning a new language, a new culture. So it probably wasn't until I was maybe 13 or 14 where I kind of caught up with my peers in terms of educational attainment. I was then able to kind of go into college. I did my A levels and then went to university. I was actually the first person in my family to attend university, which was a proud achievement for myself and my family. Um, After university, I went down kind of the graduate pathway. I worked in the city for a consultancy firm called Ernst and Young. They're a financial services, so specialising in accountancy and consultancy work. Although at the time I was making a decent salary, kind of in my heart, I wasn't getting that job satisfaction, that fulfillment. For me, a career should really kind of, when you're spending 8, 9, up to 10 hours a day at work, you've got to have that job satisfaction and really have a passion for it. And at that time, that passion wasn't there for me. And it was around this time when kind of, I suppose, social media kind of came to light, with the launch of Facebook, which meant I reconnected with a old college friend. And at the time, she had been a police officer for a few years, and her journey, her policing journey, her policing experience, opened my mind and it got me thinking. And prior to that, my experience of the Met Police, whether it be through the media or just kind of personal experience of the police, wasn't very favourable. It was quite negative. But her kind of experience really got me thinking and changed my mindset. So in 2006, I actually put an application and joined the Met Police. And since then, I've worked in a variety of uniform and detective roles. So between 2006 and 2008, I worked on a neighbourhood team, and again, the key thing I took away from that is the partnership work that you do. As a police officer, you're not going to be able to deal with all of society's challenges. So whether it be antisocial behaviour or street drinkers, you're often working with local authorities, even charity groups to find solutions to that. And then between 2008 and 2011, I worked in response policing. Again, that was a really enjoyable role. You're essentially responding to 999 calls. So that could be anything. If you think about why people call the police, it could be a road traffic collision, could be to report someone missing, could be domestic violence, or it could be a fight on the street. So you're responding to a variety of calls. And then in 2011 to 2015, I went down the detective pathway. So I worked in CID on Hounslow Borough. Again, I really enjoyed that. I'm quite an analytical person, so I enjoyed the fraud investigations. I'm kind of putting the puzzle together, analysing information, assessing evidence, and then kind of trying to get to the truth. So I worked on some really interesting cases, from gang stabbings to drug supply, to really complex fraud. And then in 2015 to 2018, I worked in specialist crime and operations, and this was, to be honest, one of the most enjoyable periods in my kind of policing career. I got to work on some really interesting cases and really making a difference to some of the most vulnerable people in society. So my kind of speciality at that time was child abuse, both physical abuse, sexual abuse, but also investigating unexplained deaths in relation to infants. So that's anyone under the age of 2. And then in 2018 to 2021, I was promoted to detective sergeant, where I led a team of investigators investigating domestic violence and rape investigation. And currently, I'm working on West Area Outreach Team, and kind of the key role at the moment is to kind of build relationships with the community and local stakeholders, and really inspire the next generation of Londoners from Black, Asian, and ethnic minority groups to apply, and also more females to apply, more people from the LGBT plus communities to apply. So that's something I'm really passionate about, to building a more inclusive work there. So that's me and my kind of policing journey to date. And some of my career highlights, I think it's worth highlighting. I got accommodation in 2014 for a kidnap investigation. And then in 2016, 2017, one of my investigations into historical sexual abuse led to the offenders getting in total, a 50-year custodial sentence. And that's been really impactful on the victims. I recall at the end of the trial, the 2 sisters coming up to me and just thanking me, for changing their lives. And that was something that will stick with me, the difference that you're making. And then in 2018, I got accommodation for an attempted murder investigation in relation to a 16-year-old child who had given birth and then poured bleach down the child's mouth after giving birth. So, you are dealing with some challenging situations, some challenging victims, but you're also making a massive difference. I'll hand you back over to Grace. I think she has some questions for me.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that insight, Iggy. So in relation to your career, Iggy, what do you think are some of the most challenging cases that you've dealt with? I know you've covered some of them, but which one do you think is above all the one that stands out the most to you?
Yeah, so I think any investigation where you're dealing with a vulnerable person, so that could be a victim of domestic violence, could be a child victim, a missing person. For me, those kind of investigations kind of stick to my mind the most, because you are giving a voice to people that often don't have voice, that often feel powerless. So those kind of investigations, kind of safeguarding investigations, they're the ones that are most impacted to victims. And they're the ones that I really get a deep satisfaction, where you literally are changing lives. So yeah, so those investigations can also be challenging, because you are dealing with people when they're experiencing immense trauma. But I think the way your professionalism, your empathy can make a big difference in those kind of investigations. And in terms of the broader challenges as a police officer, especially in your early years, there is a steep learning curve. You will often have to work long hours, often unsociable hours. That could be New Year's Eve, bank holidays. Policing is a 24/7 business. But as you progress into different roles, and as you progress in terms of maybe going into more management, more senior roles, those hours will become more kind of family friendly. But any extra hours that you work, you are compensated. You get extra pay for working night shifts, and on average, you will get 2 to 3 days off a week. And for people that have family or caring responsibility, the MPS is kind of is changing with the times. So you can put in for flexible working, to part-time working. So we are changing the culture in terms of getting that work-life balance right. And in terms of, as I kind of highlighted before, you are exposed to certain things that the general public won't be exposed to. So that could be confrontation, even seeing dead bodies. But there is plenty of support out there, whether it be support from your colleagues. So, most officers, when you're in uniform, you will have a radio. There's an emergency, a red button on it, and that means that within a couple of minutes, there will be support there. The radio's got a GPS tracker on it, so we know who you are, where you are, and there's always support available. We've got staffing, we've got different staff associations, so whether you're a Muslim officer, a Sikh officer, a Christian officer, an officer, from a female background, or an officer, regardless of your sexuality, there is a support association to offer you that support through whatever challenges you face internally as a police officer, but just to help you progress and be the best police officer you can be. We've also got occupation health. For example, I've had counselling before through the Met Police in terms of some of the experiences I've had. So there's plenty of support out there, and you're never alone.
Amazing. Thank you for that insight, Iggy. What key skills do you need to be a police officer?
Thank you. Thank you, Grace. So obviously, there's some basic requirements in terms of your educational qualifications. So you need GCSE English and Maths. You also need 64 UCAS points. Even if you haven't got GCSE English and Maths, we have got provisions where we can, signpost you to colleges where you can get your education up to the required standard to allow you to apply. But I think more broadly speaking, yes, you need certain education qualifications, but I think your interpersonal skills, communication for me, it's probably the most important skill set as a police officer. The way you can speak to someone, you can, showing empathy, being able to kind of relate to a victim, building that trust and confidence, that's really important. And also communication in terms of de-escalation, whether it be around stop and search or whether it be around an arrest. The way you talk to someone can immensely diffuse a situation, or it can escalate it. So your communication skills is really important. I think in addition to that, teamwork, yes, in your investigations that you do, you can do it on your own, but it's far more effective. It's far easier if you're working in a team. So teamwork's really important, and building that relationship with your team. And I also think you need a degree of resilience. You are exposed to things that other members of the public aren't, so you need resilience. And for me, hard work. Hard work is really important, and that goes back to kind of my childhood. As I said, I wasn't born in this country, so I've had to work maybe harder than someone who grew up here because I've had to learn an additional language. But with hard work, I really think that will always trump talent. Yeah, talent will get you to a certain level, but through hard work, you can achieve your dreams and ambitions.
Amazing. Thank you, Iggy. And why should I join? So if I was someone who has listened to you today, why would I want to join the organization?
Thank you, Grace. That's a really important question. And for me, I think that has there's several different factors why you should join, and for each individual will be different. But I think for me, in terms of why I joined, I think the first thing is making a difference. As I said earlier, you spend 8, 9, 10 hours a day working. So if you're going to, whatever career you pursue, whether it's in policing or in another industry, ask yourself, how can I improve the lives of others? And in policing, you really are changing the lives of young people. Whether it be a victim of child abuse, a victim of domestic violence, you are really impacting and making a positive contribution to some of the most vulnerable people in society. And the other thing is, growing up, I never liked bullies. And bullies can take different shapes and forms. That could be someone, bullying their child or bullying their partner, or it could be what I call the keyboard warriors, someone sending hate abuse or racial abuse through social media. So bullies takes different forms, shapes. So you are challenging bullies, you are putting bullies behind bars because they take different shapes and forms. And also in terms of joining the Met, the different pathways. So I've worked in different roles, but there's a role in policing for everyone. So if you want to be a firearms officer, great. We've got firearms teams. If you want to be, if you have a passion for cars and you want to drive cars really fast but in a safe way, we've got traffic. If your passion is around intelligence and around counterterrorism, you can go work in that field, or cybercrime. Or if you've got passion for animals, we've got mounted branch, we've got the air support unit, we've got the marine unit. There's so many different roles. I'm just touching the surface. So the other reason for joining is, I think, friendship, and in policing, some of the best friends I've made have been are police officers, and they are friends for life. And there's a real sense of team spirit and job satisfaction. So I think friendship is a key element. And I think the other reason for joining is to reward, is the reward that you get, but also challenging yourself. You know, for me, if you're not a little bit stressed in your job, then you're not pushing yourself. So if you want a job that will challenge you in terms of your career development and in terms of what you're exposed to, policing is a great career. And I think another kind of reason for me joining and for me still being a police officer after all these years is the changing culture and the different views and ideas that you can bring. So the example I give is if you have 5 people in a room who look the same, chances are they will think the same. So you get kind of a herd mentality. And the Met now is at a stage where it's actively looking to change the culture to be more inclusive, to be more diverse. And it goes back to the founding father of policing, Sir Robert Peel. The police are the people and the people are the police. So what better way to reflect policing? For me, policing should reflect the society it polices. So if you've got 40% of Londoners that are from Black and Asian background, then really policing should reflect that. And finally, the pathway to policing now is through a fully funded degree. So if you're someone who wants to go to university but doesn't want to maybe incur all the debt and maybe the uncertainty of a career pathway after getting a degree, then join the police. Our police constable degree apprenticeship means that you will start on a salary of £30,000 the first day you start. And whilst in your first 2 years, whilst you're working to become a kind of a substantive constable, you will get a degree in professional policing. I think that's it from me, Grace. Was there any other questions? If not, if you're happy, I'm just going to share a slide. So should other people have any questions or want further information, they can click on this link. Grace, can you just confirm that's visible?
Yes, it is. Thank you for that insight, Iggy. So if anyone wants to reach out to the team, I'm assuming they could just send an email to the email address shown on the screen and also scan the QR code that's being shown to register for the talent bank as well, where they could get additional support.
Absolutely. So please, in the first instance, register for the talent bank, enter your kind of key details, and a member of my team will contact you. Alternatively, you can email us at the email address there. So that's awoutreach@met.police.uk. We look forward to hearing from you, and whatever career you decide to go down, just to end it, just follow your passions and work hard. The effort you put in now will pay dividends later on in life.